Nissan's first X-Trail was everything a compact 4x4 should have been, but never caught the public's imagination. The latest version should do better. To be honest, there wasn't a lot wrong with the first generation car, it just started feeling a bit old and a bit plasticky compared to the freshest faces on the compact 4x4 block. The latest model makes a better fist of perceived quality and retains the old car's admirable versatility.
Back in 2001, Nissan pulled out all the stops with the X-Trail, a small 4x4 that looked set to take on the class best. The trouble was, Nissan thought it was great, we thought it was great, but none of you guys believed us. And it sold in reasonable but modest numbers. Most of you preferred to go out and buy a Toyota RAV4, a Land Rover Freelander, and some of you rather gallantly took one for the team and bought a Mitsubishi Shogun Sport. But now, the X-Trail is back. It's bigger and better than ever, and Nissan are hoping that meritocracy is not a dirty word in the compact 4x4 sector, because we think this car's got what it takes to succeed. The Nissan X-Trail has long been one of the tortoise handling small 4x4s around. The old car was significantly bettered only really by the Toyota RAV4 and, at more rarefied prices, the BMW X3. Thankfully, this latest version carries on in the same vein. It's still a very refined handler. Although it's no Land Rover Discovery off-road, Nissan are rightly proud of this four-wheel drive system that they developed for the X-Trail. Basically, there are three modes. On road, you can run it in two-wheel drive. This saves fuel, and it's a very smart system, cuts understeer, so on and so forth. Most of the time though, a lot of the people who are running the car will put it in auto. That means it's using a smart system where it runs in two-wheel drive on road, or, as you can see here, we're on a very, very slippery mud and grass bit. It will think it's in two-wheel drive, then as soon as you accelerate away and the front wheels start slipping, there, it's driven the back wheels as well, so it's in full four-wheel drive mode now. Then as soon as it recovers grip, it'll go back into two-wheel drive. It's very, very smart, lightning quick. Alternatively, if it's getting really, really slippery, you can lock the centre differential. This is really only for heavy mud when you've got to drag yourself out. But it's very, very effective. Ground clearance isn't huge, and there are some sizable front and rear overhangs on the car. But it's a lot more capable than most vehicles of this ilk are, and it'll be more than enough for most users. Here we're getting really, really slippery. I'm certainly putting this thing to the test, its grip here. Obviously a lot of it will come down to tyres, but this X-Trail is actually a very, very capable little car. Nissan calls this four-wheel drive system 4x4i, and it's a decent control system. It doesn't have a low-range gearbox or any other hardcore systems that a top Jeep or a Land Rover would have, but most buyers won't need that. What it does have is an ESP stability control system, hill descent control, and a hill holder function. And it's also got a very clever function that uses elements of the ESP stability control to brake each wheel individually to, in effect, replicate the effect of axle diffs that you get on a hardcore 4x4. All works very, very effectively. You'll certainly recognise the X-Trail. Its face hasn't changed that much, which is a good thing, because that was one of the things that customers liked about the old X-Trail. This car is 5mm longer in the wheelbase, which means that passenger space is much the same, but you'll recognise this car by this great big pillar and the fact that it's got 175mm longer. The old car was a little bit mean on luggage space. This one is certainly a lot different. Car manufacturers like to come up with all sorts of measures to describe their wares. Here's a new one on me, VDA. It describes the amount of luggage room in the back of the car up to the space of the window line. On the old car, the old X-Trail had 410 litres. This one claims to have 603, so as you can appreciate, it's quite significantly bigger. Fold the seats down and there's an enormous 1,773 litres. It's a very practical rear space. Naturally, you've got the split fold rear seats. You've got a 12-volt power outlet in the back. Probably the most interesting thing is this double deck system here. You can hide things away and there, put your muddy boots under there so that your bags don't get all filthy. It's got a blind there to keep things out of people's sight. It's quite a sizable space. Stand under here. I'm 6'4", can easily stand under here, shelter from the rain. It's one of the more practical luggage bays of its kind. There are two petrol engines to choose from. There's either a 2 litre or a 2.5, but more significantly for UK buyers, there's a pair of 2-litre DCI diesels. The lower power one is 150 brake horsepower, which is still fairly respectable, or there's this one with 173 horsepower, which is a little bit more fun to drive. It's pretty quick. It'll get to 60 miles an hour in about 10 seconds, and it'll go on to around 124 miles an hour. And although this is quite a sizable car, it's one of those cars that disguises its bulk when you drive it. It'll hustle through corners reasonably well. As you'd expect from a Nissan, equipment levels are very good. Even the entry-level version gets 6 airbags, front, side and curtain bags. And it also gets CD stereo, Bluetooth phone integration and alloy wheels. We're in the top of the range car, and that includes some rather neat features. It's got heated seats that are finished in leather trimmed steering wheel, and one of my favourite functions in this car is the rear reversing camera, which I'll show you now. It's possible to feel a pang of sympathy for Nissan. In 2001 they introduced the X-Trail. It was a very good car, but the public didn't recognise the fact. This time round, what's changed? In truth, not a whole lot. They've built another very, very good car. The public will have to come to terms with that. It offers much of what the Toyota RAV4 or the Land Rover Freelander does at prices that are significantly less. If you're shopping for this sort of car, I urge you to take a test drive in the Nissan. You might just surprise yourself.